One day, I'm going to use, like, the effects filters and, like, have a real pretty face. And, like, a unicorn tattoo right here for no reason. And it's going to look awesome. And people are going to be like, what happened to Josh? Josh got sexy. What's up, everybody? It's 8 o'clock. It's live. It's Scarecrow of Oz time. Book 9 of the Oz series. And we're on chapter 10. Holy cow, we're already almost halfway through book 9. And then we'll do book 10, and book 11, and book 12, and book 13, and book 14. And then we'll be sad because we'll be done. But who knows? Maybe somebody suggested I should do Alice in Wonderland after this. Maybe. I don't know. I might read something else after this. I might stop after 14 books. It seems like 14's a nice, not round number. Terribly unround, actually. Very sticky and pointy type of number. But it seems like a number I should stop at. Is 14 books is a lot. And it'll take me like a year. And then maybe I should quit. But who knows? Maybe I'll get a wild hair and decide to do other books. Somebody else suggested I do the Harry Potter series, and I will not do that. There is a wonderful recorded version of Harry Potter that actually kind of inspired this. The books on CD or books on tape of the Harry Potter series are all read by a gentleman named Jim Rice. And he does incredible voice acting. Every character in the 7 books has a distinct voice that carries from book 1 all the way through book 7. And, like, you know, Harry goes from 11 to 18 in these books. So he kind of modulates the voice. Like, he takes the voice up a little bit, or down a little bit, because when you're a male, during those years, your voice drops. Like, he ages the voices each year. Like, it's incredible the work he does. It was what made me believe, like, I could do 14 books of the same voices over and over again. But then these books just keep throwing out new voices, because I didn't know we were going to have Trot and Captain Bill, and no flippin' Scarecrow in Scarecrow of Oz. I had no idea. But, here we are on Chapter 10. Still no Scarecrow, by the way. Chapter 10 is entitled Pon, the Gardener's Boy. So, I'm going to guess that's not the Scarecrow, whose name is, Scarecrow. The Scarecrow. Boy. Man. Let's read together. It was Button-Bright who first discovered, lying on his face beneath a broad spreading tree near the pathway, a young man whose body shook with the force of his sobs. He was dressed in a long brown smock and had sandals on his feet, betokening one in humble life. His head was bare and showed a shock of brown curly hair. Button-Bright looked down on the young man and said, "Who cares, anyhow?" "I do," cried the young man, interrupting his sobs to roll over face upward that he might see who had spoken. "I care, for my heart is broken." "Can't you get another one?" asked the little boy. "I don't want another," wailed the young man. By this time, Trot and Cap'n Bill had arrived at the spot, and the girl leaned over and said in a sympathetic voice, "Tell us your troubles, and perhaps we may help you." The youth sat up then, and bowed politely. Afterward he got upon his feet, but still kept wringing his hands as he tried to choke down his sobs. Trot thought he was very brave to control such agony so well. "My name is Pon," he began. "I'm the gardener's boy." "Well, then the gardener of the king is your father, I suppose," said Trot. "Not my father, but my master," was the reply. I do the work, and the gardener gives the orders, and it was not my fault in the least that the Princess Gloria fell in love with me." "Did she really?" asked the girl. "I don't see why," remarked Button-Bright, staring at the youth.
Dang.
"And who may the Princess Gloria be?" inquired Cap'n Bill. "She is the niece of King Cruel, who is her guardian, and, well, the princess lives in the castle and is the loveliest, the sweetest maid in all Jinxland. She is fond of flowers and used to walk in the gardens with her attendants. At such times, if I was working at my tasks, I used to cast down my eyes as Gloria passed me, but one day I glanced up and found her gazing at me with a very tender look in her eyes, and the next day she dismissed her attendants and, coming to my side, began to talk with me. She said I had touched her heart as no other young man had ever done. I kissed her hand. Just then the king came around a bend in the wall. He struck me with his fist and kicked me with his foot. Then he seized the arm of the princess and rudely dragged her into the castle. Wasn't he awful? gasped Trot indignantly. "He is a very abrupt king," said Pon, "so it was the least I could expect. Up to that time I had not thought of loving Princess Gloria, but realizing it would be impolite not to return her love, I did so. We met at evening now and then. She told me the king wanted her to marry a rich courtier named Googly Goo, who's old enough to be Gloria's father. His name is Googly Goo?" Even my wife is laughing at this. She doesn't even listen to these, but Googly Goo is just ridiculous. Googly Goo is old enough to be her father. She's refused Googly Goo 39 times, but he still persists, and he's brought many rich presents to bribe the king. And on that account, King Cruel has commanded his niece to marry the old man, but the princess has assured me time and again that she will wed only me. This morning, we happened to meet in the grape arbor, and as I was respectfully saluting the cheek of the princess, 2 of the king's guards seized me and beat me terribly before the eyes of Gloria, whom the king himself held back so she could not interfere. "Why, this king must be a monster," said Trot. "He is far worse than that," said Pon mournfully. "But see here," interrupted Cap'n Bill, who had listened carefully to Pon, "this king may not be so much to blame. After all, kings are proud folks, because they're so high and mighty, and it isn't reasonable for a royal princess to marry a common gardener's boy." "It isn't right," declared Button-Bright. "A princess should marry a prince." "But I'm not a common gardener's boy," protested Pon. "If I had my rights, I would be the king instead of Cruel. As it is, I'm a prince, and as royal as any man in Jinxland." "Well, how's that come?" asked Cap'n Bill. "Well, my father used to be the king, and Cruel was his prime minister, but one day while out hunting, King Fierce, that was my father's name, he had a quarrel with Cruel and tapped him gently on the nose with the knuckle of his closed hand. And this so provoked King Cruel that he tripped my father backwards, so he fell into a deep pond. At once Cruel threw in a mass of heavy stones, which so weighed down my poor father that his body could not rise again to the surface. It's impossible to kill anyone in this land, as perhaps you know, but when my father was pressed down into the mud at the bottom of the deep pool and the stones held him so he could never escape, he was of no more use to himself or the world than if he had died. Knowing this, Cruel proclaimed himself king, taking possession of the royal castle and driving all my father's people out. I was a small boy then, but when I grew up I became a gardener. I've served King Cruel without his knowing that I am the son of the same King Fierce whom he so cruelly made away with." "My, but that's a terribly exciting story," said Trot, drawing a long breath. "But tell us, Pon, who is Gloria's father?" "Oh, well, he was king before my father," replied Pon. "Father was prime minister for King Kind, who was Gloria's father. She was only a baby when King Kind fell into the great gulf that lies just this side of the mountain. The same mountain that separates Jinxland from the rest of the land of Oz. It is said that the gulf has no bottom, but however that may be, King Kind has never been seen again. My father became king in his place." "Seems to me," said Trot, "that if Gloria had her rights, she would be queen of Jinxland." "Well, her father was a king," admitted Pon, "and so was my father, so we are of equal rank, although she's a great lady and I'm a humble gardener's boy. I can't see why we should not marry if we want to, except King Cruel won't let us." "It's a sort of mixed-up mess taken altogether," remarked Cap'n Bill. "We're on our way to visit King Cruel, and if we get a chance, young man, we'll put in a good word for you."
"Do please," begged Pon.
"Was it flogging that got your broke heart?" inquired Button-Bright.
"Why, it helped to break it, of course," said Pon.
"I'd get that fixed up if I were you," advised the boy, tossing a pebble at a chipmunk in a tree.
"What the heck?"
"You ought to give Gloria as good a heart as she gives you." "Well, that's common sense," agreed Cap'n Bill, so they left the gardener's boy standing beside the path and resumed their journey toward the castle. Well, that is the end of Chapter 10, Pon the Gardener's Boy. Boy, I hope I don't have to do a voice for Googly Goo, because I feel like his voice is going to be bumpy. I already did a bumpy voice. It hurt my neck. But hey, tomorrow night is Christmas Eve. Who's excited for Christmas Eve? I'm excited for Christmas Eve. And I think my kids are excited for Christmas Eve and then Christmas Day. And I'm going to read on both of those, I believe. I will read tomorrow night chapter 11 of Scarecrow of Oz. That's called The Wicked King and Googly Goo. Oh, great. I am going to be doing a Googly Goo voice probably tomorrow night. I jinxed myself. Of course I did. And then chapter 12 will be Christmas night. That'll be The Wooden-Legged Grasshopper. The Wooden-Legged Grasshopper. That's chapter 12. And that'll be Christmas night. So that's exciting. Then chapter 13. Oh, chapter 13 will be Saturday night. And that's Glinda the Good and the Scarecrow of Oz. We might finally meet the Scarecrow in chapter 13. Who knows? But hey, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow night. And I'll wish you a Merry Christmas then. Until then, good night, everyone. Bye.